Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Daily Gwei Refuel, where I recap the latest news in the Ethereum ecosystem. I'm your host, Anthony Sassano, and it's the 2nd of November 2023. Alright everyone, let's get into it. So apologies for missing yesterday's episode, everyone. Another rug fuel, especially at the start of the month, 1st of November, right? But there's no pop-up for yesterday's rug fuel as the pop-up is not ready yet. I did mention the other day that there will be pop-ups for future rug fuels, but not yesterday's, unfortunately. But anyway, let's get into the news from the past couple of days here. So the first big update comes from Josh here, who works as in the R&D department at the Ethereum Foundation, where there's a bunch of updates around the statelessness effort in Ethereum, and these were updates fresh from yesterday's, or I guess a couple of days ago's, Verkle Implementers Call. Now, the TLDR here is that, as Josh says, we have a new testnet live with 4 clients and counting. Work is underway on integrating Verkle into Geth, which will happen over the next few months. Several other client teams are making significant progress as well. Still early, but it looks promising that the performance of Verkle will be competitive with the current Merkle Patricia tree. This is a shadow fork. There is a shadow fork in the pipeline as well, which will help verify our current assumptions. So as you guys know, a big portion of Ethereum's roadmap is dedicated to something called the Verge, which includes Verkle trees and other improvements surrounding that, which basically stand to improve Ethereum's kind of potentially its scalability, but also its security and being able to improve upon the Merkle Patricia tree, which has been with Ethereum since day one here. And as I've been saying for I think like the last few months, the efforts on building this have already started, even though it's probably not going to happen until 2025. At this rate, maybe end of 2024, but we'll have to see. You know, it's more of a longer term roadmap item here, but it's great to see that this testnet is live with multiple clients actually on the testnet here. And as Josh said, Geth will be worked on over the next few months. Obviously, Geth is one of the most important clients, or the most important still, because of the fact that it is the majority client on the network right now on the execution layer side of things. But yeah, you can read Josh's full tweet here, which I'll link in the YouTube description below. But it's just great to see progress being made on these things, because I remember when Vitalik first published that roadmap, people took it that flowchart roadmap that I've shown on the refuel before. People took it to mean that there was a sequential roadmap, as in like we would get the merge and then we would do the surge, then we would do the verge, and we would do it one after the other. But in practice, what actually happens is that everything is worked on in parallel, and then it goes live into the network when it is ready, basically. So obviously the surge with things like EIP 4844 have been ready beforehand, and also probably more important than Verkle trees and Oh, I did forget to mention before that Verkle trees are also important for statelessness within Ethereum, and to have true stateless clients and true light clients in Ethereum, which is very important for decentralization and for scalability from a different perspective. And it's more the perspective of scalability of nodes and people running nodes and people being able to verify things from their phones and stuff like that, like full kind of cryptographic verification from your phone, stuff like that. But yeah, back to what I was saying about the roadmap. It is being done in parallel. There are efforts across pretty much everything on that roadmap, except maybe the more long term things like the moonshot ideas. But even those things are being kind of researched here and there by people who are interested in researching it. I mean, Justin Drake talks a lot about these things that he believes are like 5 to 10 years out of potentially being implemented on the Ethereum network. But that's exactly what should be at the forefront of the research. I mean, if you're a researcher and you're dedicated to researching things that are 5 to 10 years out on the Ethereum roadmap, then of course you're going to be going and doing the bleeding edge, right? You're not going to be researching things that are going to go live on the network in a year. They're going to go live on the network in 5, 10, 15, 20 years or something like that. Now, I know I've said before that I thought, and I think this was maybe a year and a half ago, that Ethereum had at least 10 years left as part of its roadmap, and it definitely does. And obviously Ethereum isn't just Ethereum layer 1 anymore, it's Ethereum layer 2s as well, which all have their own individual roadmaps, and then you have everything surrounding that as well, from all the infrastructure stuff that surrounds that, all the wallets, things like the MEV ecosystem, like all of this has its own individual kind of roadmaps and things that they're working to improve. And it really is a huge team effort. It's not just like the Ethereum core devs and then everything else falls off of that. I mean, Ethereum layer 1 is the bedrock for most of this, but at the end of the day, there are independent roadmaps. Like a lot of the stuff that happens on these layer 2s doesn't require any changes to layer 1. And that was the whole point of going with the the roll-up centric roadmap, right? At least one of the points of going with the roll-up centric roadmap, to make it so that these teams have the freedom to do what they want while still getting the benefits of Ethereum, not having to rely on Ethereum. But yes, there are some things they have to rely on Ethereum for, such as EIP 4844 and eventually full dank sharding with data availability sampling. But in terms of actually improving their own layer 2 networks, they can do that independent of Ethereum layer 1. They don't need to wait for Ethereum layer 1 to do something for them to work independently. And we've seen that across the board with various different improvements on various different L2s, whether they be full roll-ups or validiums, and everything in between, right? So I that's why I've always loved Ethereum's model of development, and I've discussed this a lot on the Refuel, that kind of bizarre model of development where there is no top-down here, guys. It's really just a flat organization of people coming together from all over the world to build the most robust and most secure and most scalable decentralized network to ever exist. That is really the crux of what Ethereum is trying to be. And I know I've gone off on a little bit of a tangent here from Josh's post, but this is the stuff that I was thinking about when I saw Josh's tweet today. I was like, wow, okay, we're making so much progress on the Verkle or the Verge kind of roadmap item here, and there is other things in the pipeline for other parts of the roadmap. It just feels like Ethereum's fundamentals are still so strong and just getting stronger all the time. And it's kind of funny when I look at that, and then I look at I go on crypto Twitter and I look at everyone just kind of like shitting on Ethereum because the price of ETH has relatively underperformed over the past, I guess, I don't know, a couple of months or something like that. And then I think to myself, hey, this is just crazy. Like, just because the market hasn't matched the fundamental reality doesn't mean the fundamental reality doesn't exist. And this goes back to what I always talk about when I say that the narratives are more powerful than the reality a lot of the time, but it's not a permanent thing. It's like a short to medium term thing. And then over the long term, that's where you see fundamental stuff play out. And it's just funny how people confuse that a lot. And I think that maybe a lot of it isn't people confusing it as much as them just shilling their own bags, which we all do to some extent, right? And I totally understand that. But if you actually just look at the actual fundamentals of the Ethereum ecosystem, it's not bearish in the slightest. It's actually incredibly bullish. And just because ETH as an asset has underperformed Bitcoin for a little bit, or has underperformed some other coins like Solana, for example, that's obviously been the talk of the town the past couple of months, doesn't really mean anything, right? Because the reason it doesn't mean anything is because the reality of the situation is that the fundamentals are stronger than ever, and the markets are stupid. And I'm not saying the markets are stupid just because things are just because ETH is underperforming. I'm saying markets are stupid because if you actually look at the top 20 coins, it's just a lot of trash, right? I mean, XRP is still in there. XRP is still a top 5 coin. It's trash, right? You have Cardano in there, which I think is extremely overvalued. Even if some of their technology is valuable to someone, it's extremely overvalued in my opinion, right? Then you can keep going down this list, like Toncoin for Telegram. I know someone's going to inevitably hate me for naming coins here, but I'm just going down the list, right? And there's a bunch of others. I mean, even you go to the top 30, it looks terrible, right, to me, at least in terms of kind of fundamentals and reality. So I wouldn't really take the market, especially over the short to medium term, as a good measure of what's fundamentally valuable versus what's not, especially in bull markets. Obviously, we're not in a bull market yet, but it's especially true in bull markets here because yeah, it just frustrates me going on Twitter and seeing all of this rhetoric, people saying, Ethereum's trash, Ethereum's dead, screw Ethereum. And it's just like, are you saying this just because you're trying to pump some other bags that you hold, or do you actually believe this? And I think 9 times out of 10, it's the former, because if you actually look at the reality, Ethereum obviously isn't trash. Ethereum still has the biggest developer community by far, still has the most users. Ethereum, and I'm talking not just Ethereum layer 1, but obviously all of Ethereum, and ETH is still worth a crap ton. And it's funny because if you look at ETH's market cap, it's $220 billion. If you want to look at ETH's closest kind of layer 1 competitor, I guess in market cap, it's now Solana, that's $18 billion. Just the amount of staked ETH is like 3 times that entire market cap there. So when you're comparing these things, you really have to keep in mind that they're in different leagues here as well. And it's just something that I kind of try to get through to people and try to say to people. It's like, hey, like short to medium term stuff, it's going to be noisy, especially on crypto Twitter where it's really, really toxic. But if you just focus on the fundamental side of things and the reality, that is what you should be focused on. And that's what I focus on. That's why I do this show. I mean, as I've said plenty of times before, and as you guys know, the show is not a trading show. It's not a price show. I don't talk about the price that often. I try to focus on the fundamental stuff and also try to explain to you why the fundamental stuff actually matters over the long term and why it may not necessarily matter over the short to medium term here. Anyway, enough of a rant there. Moving on from that one onto an update from Nodeset today. So they've announced today that they are working hard to enable their community to provide validation services for vaults on StakeWise, with the first partnership expected to go live in December. And there's more details coming soon for that. And then they said, this represents one of the many opportunities for Nodeset operators to earn more from the partnerships here. Now, I remember highlighting that Nodeset was looking for operators quite a while ago on the refuel, but I believe that they're still always looking for operators here. Don't know if it's open right now because they're doing a phased launch. I'm going to be a node operator for Nodeset. I'm going to try and do things like StakeWise vaults and also do things in other communities like potentially, obviously in the Swell community, Diva community, other staking communities there, Rocket Pool, obviously stuff like that, just to support as a node operator. And it's cool because I actually had a call with one of the team members from Nodeset the other day. We were just running through. It was kind of like it wasn't really an onboarding call for Nodeset, but it was a touching base call. And I had a call with him, and Nodeset is trying to be much more than just like Ethereum staking. What they want to do is basically be a way for people to sign up as an operator and then basically sign on to different services. So, for example, sign on to be an EigenLayer node operator, or sign on to be a node operator for a layer 2, or for multiple layer 2s, or for some Oracle network here, or something else, right? So basically, having a platform to enable that, I think, is obviously very important, especially for people who already run stuff on-prem at home. Like for me, for example, as you guys know, I have plenty of hardware that I'm running Ethereum staking stuff on that I want to use for other purposes as well, and not just for maybe running kind of like staking pools, but also for doing things like EigenLayer services and running other things like that. I really do want to use my hardware to do that. So I think that's what Nodeset is trying to enable here. But yeah, great to see that they've partnered up with StakeWise here. Cool to see where this partnership goes. All right, speaking of EigenLayer, the voting period for the EigenLayer LST contest is now open. So from now until November 8th, which is only a week away, or less than a week away, whitelisted addresses can cast their allocated votes for their favorite proposals. So you guys know that EigenLayer is running a voting contest for which LSTs to support next as part of the EigenLayer protocol here. You have a list to choose from. There are 8 submissions currently that have been made from StakeWise, from Swell, and from a bunch of others as well, which you can read about here. But right now, StakeWise is winning with Swell second. Swell in second place. Third place is OETH from Origin Protocol here. But I don't know how many of these LSTs that they're going to pick. I can't remember exactly what they said. I think they may only be picking 1 or 2 of them, like the top 1 or 2. But yeah, I mean, they may have detailed this in the blog post, and I've just forgotten here. But yeah, you can go vote for this if you haven't yet. It'll say if you're eligible to vote or not. Apparently, Sassel.eth is ineligible to vote. I don't think I signed up with Sassel.eth on this one here. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing which LST wins out here and which one gets onboarded. It looks like right now it's going to be StakeWise, but that can change, right? There's no guarantee here. And not that many of the votes out of the eligible votes have been deployed just yet. So if you are eligible, you can go to this link. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. It'll tell you, and then you can vote for which LST you want onboarded onto EigenLayer. All right, Tony has a new website for us today called mempool.pics. So the aim of this website is to add more transparency to Ethereum's mempool. The site shows you all kinds of stats around private order flows and the actors involved. Private order flow has grown more and more into a highly important topic, eventually determining the competitiveness of builders. The site can assist in getting a more comprehensive picture of the MEV/PBS landscape. So I'm on the site here at mempool.pics, and there's a bunch of different kind of metrics and graphs and charts that you can check out. I mean, this is really classic Tony here with the amount of detail he's put into these things. But you can basically see things like, starting from the top here, what the private order flow over time looks like, and you can see it's kind of been slowly growing over time. I guess you can say from July it was at like 8.2%, and now in I guess like November it's 12.8%. So it has been growing, albeit slowly over time. And then you can see the kind of split up here in the kind of pie chart. Yep. And then percentage of the private order flow per block builder breakdown, private order flow per builder again broken down here. By users too. You can see Jared from subway.eth is just like absolutely smashing it here, like leading the pack, something fierce. Like he'd be responsible for most of the activity here right now. And you can also see what type of of order flow is going on here too. So is it a back run? Is it a front run? Is it an arb? Is it a sandwich? And so on and so forth. And then, yeah, there's so many different metrics here and different ways of displaying this data that you can go check out for yourself. And I'll link this in the YouTube description below for you to do so. Now, another dashboard that will be good to pair with this is one that Hildobby released today, which is a Dune Analytics dashboard tracking sandwich trades. So as you guys know, sandwich attacks on the Ethereum network, or really on any kind of like network, a really crappy attack, right? It is an attack that directly harms users and something that needs to be weeded out of the ecosystem. And you can see here, if you look at the amount of DEX volume of other trades or sandwich or sandwiched, you can see that the sandwich and sandwich are still a relatively small portion of volume, but it does make up a large portion of actual trades. So as of yesterday, the amount of sandwich trades was roughly equal to the amount of non-sandwich trades. And that's in trade numbers, not in volume numbers, right? And that, to me, I think signals the fact that a lot of the smaller players are getting sandwiched, unfortunately, because the smaller players obviously aren't making it in volume, but they're doing lots of swaps, and they're accounting for the swaps here. And that's my kind of read of things. Now, maybe I've got that wrong, but someone can correct me on that if I have. But yeah, this dashboard will let you track all of the different kind of stats and metrics around sandwiching, as well as things like, where it's actually happening, like what exchanges. You can see how dominant Uniswap is here. Like, that's crazy, right? Like, Uniswap is pretty much like 100% dominant in a lot of these things here, which is only natural because, as I said, I suspect a lot of the people getting sandwiched are the noobs. And where are the noobs going? They're going to Uniswap, right? The more sophisticated actors are probably protecting themselves from as many sandwich attacks as they can because they know about them. They know that getting sandwich attacked is really, really bad for their bottom line, whereas the newbie traders out there have absolutely no idea about this. They're not aware of this. They're just using vanilla Uniswap, which is obviously somewhere we are definitely going to get sandwiched in a big way, especially if you start adjusting slippage and stuff like that, because for whatever reason you need to do that, whether you're trying to buy a meme coin or something else. I do think that that's why we're seeing the discrepancies here. But anyway, you can go check out that dashboard for yourself. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. And as I said, it pairs very well with Tony's new mempool.pics website, because a lot of this kind of like sandwich attacks versus private public order flow, this all kind of, I guess, like plays into it, and this all kind of plays into it and kind of like correlates with each other. So yeah, you can go check these out. We'll link them in the YouTube description below. All right, so Bartek has a couple of threads here that I wanted to highlight today. First off, this thread is about account abstraction on Ethereum, and he says here, if you're still confused about the AA despite tons of articles and wonder what is the difference between, say, EIP 4337 account abstraction and what Starkware and ZK Sync are doing with enshrined account abstraction and, say, Nodeset safe accounts, then you can read on here. Now, there is not a TLDR, there's just a really great thread from Bartek here with images as well. So it's not just text. You've got some pretty pictures here to follow along with. I highly suggest giving this a read. I'll link it in the YouTube description below. Bartek's threads are always gold. Honestly, he deserves more followers. I mean, he's only got like 12.5 or 12.8k followers here. For those of you who don't know him, he's one of the founders of L2Beat, been around for a very long time. Super smart guy when it comes to both the technical and non-technical stuff, and is also really great at not just kind of, I guess, reasoning about things from emotion. He's pretty objective in a lot of his analysis about things, which is what I like. But yeah, you can go check out this account abstraction thread. We'll link it in the YouTube description below. But the other thread he did was one that really resonates with me, because this is something that I've been saying for a very, very long time that still hasn't gotten through to people. But this thread is all about TPS, or transactions per second. He starts off the thread by saying TPS is a very faulty metric to measure blockchain throughput, and it's only going to get worse in the future. One of the potential alternatives is to measure UOPS, or user ops per second, or user operations per second. But what are they? How do they relate to account abstraction? And is it really a feasible alternative? And he goes on in this thread about what this all looks like here. Now, I want to explain my kind of reasoning about TPS here and why I think it's one of the worst kind of measures of blockchain throughput. The first reason, main reason, is because if something like claims to have 10,000 TPS, let's just say, right, but it's only doing like 50 TPS. Okay, well, you have 9,950 TPS that's doing nothing, right? That's not real TPS. That's theoretical TPS, right? So the real TPS that you can handle is 50. If you've only ever done 50, it's 50. Okay, so why is that important? Like, okay, they're only doing 50 now, but what if they do 10,000 in the future? I'm like, sure, that's the thesis, right? That it gets to 10,000. But the problem becomes is that if you're only doing 50 and you're claiming 10,000, then you're really just misleading people into thinking that you're able to do 10,000. Because unless you're actually doing 10,000 TPS, 10,000 real, true TPS, right, then you can't claim to be able to do that because you're not doing it in a live environment. You can say that you're able to do it all you want, but until you actually do it, it's not reality. Again, this is the narrative versus reality thing that I talk about a lot. I can say that, I can run the 100 meters in the fastest time possible. I can beat the world record. I can say that as much as I want. Does it make it reality? No, right? Maybe I can fool some people into believing that I could do it, but then I'll go run the 100 meters and I won't even beat any of the records, right? I won't even beat the local record with my neighbors. I don't remember the last time I actually ran, to be honest, but you know what I mean? Using that rough analogy there. It's like you can claim something all you want, but until you actually hit that in production, hit that TPS number in production, it's completely irrelevant, right? And that's the main reason why I've always hated TPS. But at the same time, looking at TPS between chains, between different layer 2s, layer 3s, rollups, validiums, whatever they are, it's going to be very, very different because as Bartek explains in these threads, there's things like bundling transactions, there's like off-chain orders, there's doing things in off-chain execution with things like risk zero, right, and co-processing. There's all these different ways to do things that you could bundle something and it only looks like one transaction on chain, but if you unbundle it, there's thousands of transactions in there, right? So TPS is just such an inferior metric. It doesn't measure anything, and it has been dominant in crypto for so long because people automatically think that, oh, wow, this blockchain says they can do 10,000 TPS. Scalability solved. Woo. It's like, no. We've had blockchains that can do that much TPS for a long time now. Pretty much all of them are centralized, but we've had that for a very, very long time. And none of them have ever been able to do that consistently in a production environment at all. Like even the most popular ones have not been able to do that. So unless you're actually doing it in a live production environment, you can't claim to be able to do it. That's my kind of view on things, because there's so much more that goes into it. But then again, it is not a good measure of throughput for all the reasons Bartek lists in his thread here and one of the reasons I just outlined before. And again, on top of that, TPS is no measure of value as well for a chain or the value of a block. Because at the end of the day, Ethereum Layer 1 has, very bad TPS. It's like a max, what is it, like 20 TPS or something like that? Not even 15, 20 TPS on Ethereum Layer 1. But it makes so much more money on that TPS as a share of kind of like fee revenues than any other chain. I mean, if you go to cryptofees.info, which you guys know about, I mean, I've showed this website to you guys plenty of times before. Just look at the demand for Ethereum Layer 1's block space as opposed to everything else. And keep in mind that no regular retail user needs to be on layer 1 anymore. You can sit at a layer 2 and do pretty much like everything that you can do on layer 1, from DeFi to even NFT stuff to SocialFi. Like as a regular user, you really don't need to be on layer 1, especially if you're not trading. I mean, if you're not trading a ton of money, if you're trading like even there's enough liquidity there for tens of thousands of dollars worth of trades, which covers most people, right? Unless you're a whale, there's really no reason to be on layer 1 here. And yet, there is so much activity on layer 1. Over the last day, Ethereum has done $6.2 million in fees. The next closest layer 1 to Ethereum, besides Bitcoin at $780,000 fees, is BSC at $336,000, right? That is significantly smaller than Ethereum, and BSC can obviously do more TPS than Ethereum, but they're not making it up in volume. They're not making that fee revenue up in volume. And then the next one after that is actually a layer 2, Arbitrum 1 at $165,000. Then you have Solana at $80,000 and Optimism at $65,000, right? So when you're looking at the orders of magnitude between these things, it's so totally different. And that's why TPS, again, is not a great measure of value. It's not a great measure of demand, because in my mind, something can have a lot of TPS, but if Ethereum, with its limited TPS, is still able to command a $6 million daily fee revenue, or daily demand, you could say, for its block space as its product, then obviously TPS is not the thing that we should be looking at and should be measuring. And now, of course, all of this isn't to say that scalability doesn't matter. Of course it matters. It matters more than probably anything for the long-term sustainability of these systems. But the point I'm trying to make here is that scalability should not be measured in TPS, right? There's so many other ways to measure it. There are so many other ways to look at it and reason about it. And I think that at this point in time, the fact that we're still talking about this in almost 2024 is kind of frustrating to me, because this to me was like a well-known kind of solved thing a long time ago, and maybe it's because I'm so deep in the ecosystem. I obviously are on top of these things, but the fact that people still fall for the TPS numbers is incredible to me. I mean, I don't really think that it matters that your chain can do a billion TPS if no one's using it. It's like building a ghost city and then no one's there using it. Like, who cares that you have a massive ghost city, right? So yeah. Anyway, enough ranting about that. You can go read Bartek's thread. I'll link it in the YouTube description below for you to do so. All right, so a little bit of drama out of WalletConnect of all places. So WalletConnect made a public statement a couple of days ago where they said, in light of the latest legal and OFAC guidance, WalletConnect has restricted the availability of the WalletConnect protocol in Russia. Certain regions of Ukraine were temporarily impacted, but service has since resumed. We sincerely apologize for any inconvenience caused, and thank you for your patience and understanding. For more on this situation, please read the following words from our CEO. And there's just more, I guess, like legal speak here. So obviously, WalletConnect is not decentralized. I mean, I don't think it ever really tried to be decentralized, not yet at least. It is a way for, it is basically infrastructure, but the fact that they can just like unilaterally block a whole country like this based on the OFAC guidance, which is a US specific guidance, it's shitty, right? And it goes against the global nature of crypto. It goes against the ethos of decentralization, obviously. But at the end of the day, if WalletConnect was decentralized, they wouldn't be able to do this. So again, it just speaks to the fact that we need to work really, really hard to decentralize every layer of the stack. Like, the layer one, like Ethereum being decentralized, is awesome. You know, that's like the first layer of the stack. Well, technically the social layer is the first layer of the stack, but you know what I mean. Then the infrastructure around it, RPCs, obviously we need to decentralize those out, which has been worked on and is being worked on. Front ends, the MEV ecosystem, you know, and then stuff like this, like WalletConnect wallets generally. Everything needs to be decentralized and distributed. We cannot have any central points of failure, because a blockchain is not only decentralized just because of the chain itself being decentralized. It relies on and requires all of this extra infrastructure to make it available for users. And if that infrastructure is centralized, then you get this, what happens here, right? You get, unfortunately, WalletConnect caving in, or their lawyers at least kind of caving in here and kind of like following this guidance here, because obviously Russia is a sanctioned country right now from the US, and OFAC sanctioned them. So obviously WalletConnect, if if the team members are in the US, which I believe a lot of them are, or some of them are, they would be breaking the law essentially. So I don't blame them for doing this, but at the same time, I feel like we need to decentralize everything, or else this is just going to keep happening. And stuff's in the works, don't get me wrong. Ethereum is by far the furthest ahead with decentralizing out its entire stack, but it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time, and it's going to be an uphill battle, I think. And even if we do decentralize things, there's still going to be weaknesses in that. There are still going to be problems in that, because how do you incentivize things to stay decentralized? All that sorts of stuff. You know, it's a tale as old as time when it comes to blockchains. But yeah, just sad to see this from WalletConnect. But as I said, don't blame them. Not unexpected, and it's just another call to the community that we need to decentralize the entire stack. But I think on that note, that's going to be it for today. So thank everyone for listening and watching. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the newsletter, join the Discord channel, and I'll catch you all tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.